Hey, everybody, Reverend Rob here. Stick around. I've got Peggy Sylvestor here, a magic worker. You're not going to want to miss what we're fixing to talk about. Bang around. This is Tarot with an Attitude, featuring your host, tarot consultant and spiritual medium, the Reverend Rob Lee. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Tarot with an Attitude. I am your host, tarot consultant and spiritual medium, the Reverend Rob Lee. And wow, what a show we got today. Somebody I have talked to often online for years. Not like that, you dirty-minded bunch of people. All right. But this is Peggy Sylvestor. She has a room on Facebook, a page, a group called The Witch's Broom. And Peggy Sylvestor is genuinely a magic worker. Peggy taught me about doing my brain and my stroke thing working here. Working sigils and doing things and helped me talk through it. So we're going to talk, but I know Peggy's got some things on her mind. So Miss Peggy, welcome to Tarot and Attitude. What's going on?
Oh, thank you. What's going on? That's a loaded question, Lord.
It is.
One thing I have to absolutely say is energy has shifted. And we are all feeling it big time. So my advice to everybody is stay grounded, stay shielded, my folks. Okay. This will end. Not right away, but it shall end. It shall end.
I agree with you. The energy is just so, I hate the word toxic, but I keep telling people just separate yourself from it. And then I hear from both sides, well, we can. It's our life. It's our politics. Politics aren't our life. You know, all this crap and everything that's going on. Just everybody take a chill pill.
That's it. Slow down.
Yeah.
Slow down. Disconnect. That's the big thing. Turn off the TV, turn off the phone, turn off the computer. Okay. Get into what makes you happy. Okay. Change the energy.
When you say that, get into what makes you happy. And what's really sad to me in doing my counseling and things like that, when I was doing marriage counseling, particularly with kids, a lot of times I would ask them, what do you like to do for fun? What makes you happy? And people have gotten so lost in work and everything, they've forgotten. A lot of people can't give me an answer. So I think you're starting down a path here that's near and dear to my heart about being happy. And I don't think a lot of people know how to be happy anymore. What do you think?
Look what's going on in the world today. Okay.
I hear you.
And people are scared. Okay. That's what it is. And that's why I think people are angry, because they're in fear.
Absolutely.
You know, you have to stop and look what's going on around you. Listen to what's being said. If it sounds ridiculous, odds are, yeah. Okay. Ego. Okay.
Wow.
Huge word. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm seeing. Okay.
Okay. And you and I had talked briefly before, and you had asked me a question. And I'd like you to ask me that question again. And I stopped, and she will tell you I didn't answer it because I wanted to do it here. Okay. But you are going right down that path towards the answer from a scientific standpoint as well as a spiritual standpoint. Absolutely. So I'd love to answer that question.
Okay. But I'll throw it back at you again. What do you think makes people angry? What causes anger?
Okay. And the original question was, what makes people hate? Okay. And anger, a lot of that hate is what we call a secondary emotion. It takes something else to enact hate. Okay. And you hit on it when you talked about fear.
It's a fear response.
Change. All of these things. When things start going against people's norm, particularly people of our age that were raised with certain ingrained, brainwashed thoughts about the way things are supposed to be. You
With
know,
a slap of reality.
yeah. And, you know, a lot of us were taught that our lives, our souls, our very souls depended on sticking by these core values. And now we're finding out, not really. Okay. But things are hitting us in the face with that on all spectrums.
Mhm.
And that is where hate is coming from. And it comes from fear, it comes from anger, it comes from not feeling secure, what the threatening feeling, you know, and if I can't be happy, I'm going to be something else, you know? So it's why is it? And we point blame at other people because we're not happy.
That's it.
Does that make
That's it.
sense?
A perfect example was last Saturday. It was after that big crash with the computers and the
Oh,
airlines and all that. I was in Reno trying to get out of there on my way to Colorado. And there's this huge line. You could feel the tension in the air. I mean, really, really heavy. And there's only one person in security checking all these people. Okay. So I get through there and they go, well, you set off the alarm. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's my knee replacements that did it.
okay.
No, it was my bra strap. So how I handle things is with humor. So the lady asked me to turn around and she asked me if I was sensitive. And I told her no. And I go for it. So I'm sitting there with my arms spread out, my legs, and she gently pats down my back. And I turn to her and I go, oh, honey, you got a gentle touch. And as I'm walking away, I'm thanking her, telling her that's the most I've been felt up in years. She made my year, okay? And in that moment, the crowd busted into laughter, okay? It changed that energy level.
Like that, it could.
That absolutely, people forgot about, excuse me, I just spilled something on my table. I'm
Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
But in that moment, it broke that tense energy, that heaviness. Okay. And that's how I deal with it personally.
I love that because you know you've heard me on the show for as many years you've been watching me and things like that. I'm sarcastic. You know, it's just that way. And sometimes you need that laughter, you know, to break it. Laughter will change the energy of a room.
It's
And
a
it
high
absolutely
vibration.
it
Yeah.
changes the whole vibration. And that's very true. Some of I think what I was caught there too, and I was stuck in Dulles in Washington D.C.
Oh,
trying to get home. So I'm doing the Dulles dash, running to
yeah.
airplanes because we didn't even know what was going on then yet. Um, and I found one that had been delayed for 2 hours and got one of the last two seats to get home, or they were telling me I was going to be there till 7:30 in the morning. That means I would have been stuck. Now I live in New Hampshire. I would have been stuck in Washington, D.C. because you remember they shut everything down the next day.
Yeah, they did. They did.
I would have, you know, and a lot of people were stuck for days.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the things I would tell people, what's funny is I was coming back from a cruise, okay? Buddy of
Mhm.
mine's a travel agent. And one of the things I hear him tell people all the time, don't travel on the day you cruise, okay? Because you don't know what's going to happen. Come in
Yeah.
the day before, come in the day after. How many people lost their cruises because they tried flying in the same day? Because we're so worried about our time and in that inability to get outside the box and be
Mhm.
happy and say, the joy is in the journey. I'm going
Yeah.
to be safe, take some time. We're trying to cram so much in to every hour of the day.
We don't slow down.
You said it, gotta slow down.
You
Gotta
have.
slow down.
That's why I feel that, especially in what we do, that meditation is so vital. Just to quiet and center oneself.
I, yes,
Truly.
you are so right. So let me ask you a question when you say that.
Sure.
Without getting into a long drawn out, we don't do a 20-minute, you know, meditation or whatnot. What is something that you do when you feel yourself kind of getting, I get frenetic, I get, you know, I feel it. My wife, fortunately, I have a wife that will look at me and call me on my shit and say, what would you tell somebody else to do right now? Thank you, babe. Okay. What is something you do that just helps you find center in that moment?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I could barely hear.
What is something that you do that
Mhm.
helps you return to center in those moments?
I come out here. This is my little shed out in front of my house. This is my safe place.
Okay.
Okay. This is where I do my magic and nothing but good things are here. This is when the other day, for instance, last weekend, the traumatic that came down in the news with the switch and all that, I found myself getting very angry. And I had company here. I excused myself. I came out here, opened up my little thing, lit my candle, took a deep breath, and just grounded. Took a couple of seconds for myself. And that's one thing that everybody needs is their little space, their little happy space. Okay. I go out into the garden. I rake weeds out, get my frustrations out. Okay. And that. Or I come out here and I'll pick up a book or get into a craft or put my mind somewhere else. Okay. I we truly do attract what we think, what we say, how we act. And that is another key to happiness. Okay. That is a high vibration. And you go out, you do good for others, you do good for yourself. Okay. That's where the abundance comes in. The more you give, the more you get.
Isn't that the truth? And sometimes the more you stop asking for it and you just learn to be happy, happiness is such
Absolutely.
a key. You reopen all of the frequencies and the energies, and then
Mhm.
the universe can just lay it at your feet. Like, I'm happy. And then all of a sudden, poof, this happens.
Well, see,
You
a lot of people worry about, oh, they worry about this happening and that happening. Don't bring it into existence, baby. Okay.
know?
And it is true. And I'm only 57 years old. I've only been practicing my craft for about 20 years.
Okay.
I'm a
Only 20
solitary
years.
practitioner.
Okay.
Okay. I have no issues. I mean, I went from Northern California to northeastern Oklahoma. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, talk about culture shock. But
Yeah.
I'm growing where I'm planted. I do what I can for my community. I've got a garden. I take extra food up to town hall. And yes, I'll stab a little. My husband happens to be our little town mayor.
Okay.
So here we are starting small where we can make the difference in the community we live in.
That's important. And all right. So a lot of, like, I live in a very mostly, it's not New York size, but I live in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Right.
Hmm.
Thousands of people. So it's not small. And when you say help community, sometimes that seems to take on a whole, like, I don't know where to begin. But what is a simple thing somebody can do in any community? I know one of the things I try to do is if I see somebody that's homeless or whatnot, toss them a few bucks. I'll do whatever I can do just to help somebody else. But when we talk about community, what is something somebody like me that lives in a larger community can do and not feel so, well, this is a waste of time? Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, okay. Me, I'm a huge animal activist, okay, and
Okay.
you know that animal shelters are overrun and they could always use volunteer help. Start out small,
Okay.
okay? That's what I do. I help at a wildlife refuge. I'm out here in a small town. I grow vegetables. I try to help out as much as I can there, okay? People in town, do they know I'm a witch? No, but they know I'm the local herbalist.
Okay.
And I live in a very poor state. I live in a very poor community that there is vast need in. I mean, I see it. I'm living, it's around me every day. Can I solve all these problems? No. Okay. But I can help out where I can. Okay. I have no problem taking the neighbor to the store 15 miles away to do shopping or to an appointment and that. Okay. I do what I can.
I got you. Okay. And that's why I think sometimes, even when I look at it too big. Like it's bigger than me, so therefore I don't do anything. And I think that's the problem, is we get so thrown back, we feel helpless. And that starts leading to the anger, which leads to hate, which leads to everything else.
It really just seems like people just don't care anymore, doesn't it?
It really does. It really does.
Well,
And
that is
I
sad.
firmly, I keep telling myself they do. I live by that old adage that 90% of the people want to do the right thing. They want to do what's right for their fellow and will stop and help. Okay. But the more I watch, something's going on. You know, everybody's like, we need to unify. We can't unify to help a woman cross the street or, you know, about an animal shelter. If you tried to put together a panel, they're all going to wind up arguing over
I
which
know.
way to do and they forget about helping the animals.
That's it.
You know, and it's one. So, yeah, no, that's right. It's the small things, and you know, I told people at one point years ago on the show, a challenge: find somebody you don't know on the street, in a store, whatnot. Pay them a compliment. When you don't know what to do, just say something nice or make them laugh.
There you go.
And, you know, a lot of times it just starts small that way. But one of the things after working with addictions and some very heavy mental health counseling or whatnot, you never know when you're making somebody laugh if you literally just saved their life.
Absolutely.
And people, you need to realize that. Somebody very well could be thinking about suicide at that very moment. And that little chuckle, your little pat on the back, you're like, hey, that shirt looks great on you.
That made me feel good.
And, you know, that's one of those things. So I may be off the chain, off the chart, or what.
Oh, honey, I'm thinking right along that line, right with you.
Okay.
Dear.
All right.
Rob,
So
I can honestly say, dear,
yes, ma'am.
welcome to enlightenment. The definition of enlightenment is the lights are on and you could truly see around you how much work actually needs to be done. Okay.
Where do we start? I mean, how do we, okay. Yes, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And I mean, again, sometimes that just seems so overwhelming. So,
I think it starts with oneself.
okay.
Okay. And then you move from there, baby. Then you move from there.
All right.
I mean, I know that what I do isn't going to solve the world's problems in that. But if I could just help one person out to make a difference, okay, to ease somebody else's burden, their pain, I'm right there. Hey, I'll sign up. I'll do it. Okay.
Yeah, that's
And I am not going to let everybody else's harsh my mellow. It's not going to change who I am.
I love it.
Okay.
I love it. And you know, I tell people a lot of times, don't get drawn into drama, don't get sucked in, because negative vibes, if you get surrounded by too many negative vibes at one time,
It'll
they
take you
pull
down.
you down.
Absolutely.
You have to step away. And you know what? It's hard sometimes when those people are your family.
Honey, I am a Capricorn with 3 Capricorn placements and a Taurus. Snip, snip, snip. No issue, baby. Me and my brother, politically, we think exact opposite. Am I going to stop loving him? No. Okay. He's entitled to his opinion. Okay. And I still respect him. Okay.
And that's the key, is to remember, when you think everybody should change the way they think,
Oh, no.
that's what's supposed to make us great. I can think whatever I want. You can think whatever you want. And I should fight for your right to be able to think something absolutely opposite to what I think. But you should fight for my right to do the same thing. And
Absolutely.
it's one of those things where lighten up, folks. You know, lighten up. One of the things, Peggy, that I did have to learn, being, I think you remember when I was in my 20s and early 30s, I spent 14 years as a law enforcement officer, which is way too young. I was 19, married with a kid, and got into police work at 20 because I had to make some money.
Oh,
Nobody should be that young to be in law enforcement, especially not with a family.
yeah.
Don't get me started on that whole thing. But coming out of my family with a lot of anger, okay, man, I love to fight. If you gave me the reason to embarrass you publicly when I was younger, I'm not proud of it,
Yeah.
but I was all over it. I would humiliate you in a second to prove who I was. That was my anger. That was my fear.
I feel for a lot of these young officers because they're walking into situations in somebody's most terrible moment where the energy is very heightened,
Right.
and that it's difficult.
It is. And one of the things is to remember, and I got out of it because I saw where law enforcement was going, is we're there to help people. Okay. Even criminals have rights, everything else. And again, another show. But my point being was the anger. And not so much as a law enforcement officer, but like if I was out with my kids and a waitress was being a pain in the ass, I would right there in front of God and everybody. One of the things I learned, and folks, you need to learn this, stop reacting and start responding.
That's the key.
That is the key. And one of the first things I learned was to ask my waitress, ma'am, everything okay? Something going on that I need to know about or whatnot, because we're having a problem. And I just want to make sure there's something I can help you with. And, I get more responses to, no, thank you, calling it. You always get more with, honey than you do with vinegar.
Yeah.
But at the same point, I want to remind people, you don't know that person that day got up and their wife, their husband, disappeared, walked away. They got the worst news. Did they pass away? You don't know what that person woke up to this morning. And here you are worried about how fast they bring you your grit. So a little compassion, only until they show you, okay, I don't need your, I've given you my compassion. Now you're just being a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But start with the compassion. I think that's the biggest thing in what you were talking about with the world going haywire. We've lost compassion. We'll have compassion for a dog. And I watched this interesting thing. You'll find this, like you're working with animals. And this lady who was doing, she's doing like a whole big group. It was an auditorium, teaching people how to talk to people. And she had this cute little dog, and it comes walking out on stage. And she turns around and looks at it and goes, "What are you doing? This is my time." She starts screaming at the dog. And everybody's like aghast. And then she reached down, scooped the dog up, and gave it a hug. She said, "Isn't it funny how you will talk to your husband or your wife the same way I just talked to my dog?" These are the people in our lives, folks. Whether you're married to them or not, you're bumping shoulders with them. And that's what I think is huge. So now I'm going to ask you another question. As healers, what do you think? Because I know this is near and dear to your heart.
Oh, yes.
How do healers get called in? True healers. We all know there are people posing. Okay.
I mean, the signs are everywhere. I mean,
how do healers, what do we need to do a call to action?
Oh, honey, the bonfires are lit on up on the hills, folks. It is our time to step forward. Okay. The the witches, the healers, the energy workers, the watchers, the psychics. Now is our time. Okay. These people, I'm not going to say that they're lost. They're just so caught up. And Susie said it best. The problem we're seeing is everybody thinks it's the other person that's blind.
That's right. I would agree with that.
That says a load right there.
You can try to have a discussion with somebody, and I've told people, watch their eyes. You will watch them disconnect rather than listening to let you finish because they want to react to what you said in the first 10 seconds and you don't even get to finish. And that listening to understand versus listening to react is going to be huge. And that, man, you said a lot there, Miss Peggy. You said a lot.
I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Out of curiosity.
Okay.
What would human mankind be without ego? What would be left?
You know what? That's a tough question because the ego defines self. All right.
That is a rabbit hole, isn't it?
Yes, it is. You can go down it. So the key thing is what I see is we have to have ego, but we have to understand where my ego, kind of like our private space we're talking about. I don't have a right to let my ego lap into your ego space. And you don't have to have a right to let your ego drive into my space.
Absolutely.
Am I making sense? I might be going long.
Absolutely.
The ego is not something we can do about. But when we stop and we say, wait a minute, like what I said before, what's driving this person's thought process? And we put our ego in the back or release it. We will then be able to problem solve and either help, heal, or realize there's nothing I can do. And that's what you're right. Without ego, we would all be so dependent on each other.
Absolutely.
We would all, but almost to a point of fear where we would almost be like sheep. One sheep leads the bunch, you know? But at the same point, we've got to start checking our ego at the door. We have got to. I'm in so much.
What I think people have lost and have to relearn is how to try to put somebody else before themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's time. It's time.
It is.
I didn't think anything in the world about it. Some of it was my grandmother would have jumped up and slapped me, being the Southern boy that I was raised to be. We were at a restaurant the other night, and this gentleman was by himself. We were sitting on the only bench there was while we were waiting in a line.
Yeah.
And you could see him looking around, and I just said, "Sir, do you need a seat?" And he was just taken aback in a good way that anybody in today's world would even care. And that speaks to what you're talking about. Nobody cares. Take a moment to look outside. How many people would have sat there thinking about, this is taking so long? What have I got to do tonight when I get home? What's on deck for tomorrow? They wouldn't. You've got to see. And I would, oh, this just hit me. Sorry. Woo, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, whatever. You've got to set that ego aside and be able to see other people, to be able to heal them or help them. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely, honey. I feel I recently just started going into a gym and started working out. And when I sit there and I work out, I've got my eyes closed, my earbuds in, and I'm in my own little world. But as people walk by me, I feel the energy, and I could pick up right there where they're at and what's going on. And it's draining.
Oh my God.
Draining.
Oh my God. Yes.
So I shield myself. I go with understanding, okay? Because we don't know another story, okay?
Right.
And we have to see things for what they are. Just to stop, disconnect, close out all the chatter, okay? Find
Yeah.
find your happy, okay?
And sometimes that's just it is just as simple as going, you know what? I hear this conversation, it's pissing me off, but I don't have to be part of it. It has nothing to do
It's
with
one
me.
of the hardest things to do.
I've got something here I want to show everybody because you mentioned uh 16. You want to talk about that for a second?
Oh, absolutely.
Go right ahead. Lead it off. But what I did was I brought out the tower card so I could bring it up on screen so everybody can see it. Oh, you've got yours. All right. There we go.
And we got another one here.
All right. And let me
And then
show
we got
mine
an
here.
interesting one here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I just pulled one, and I'll do it this way rather than going through the whole screen. And this is from the Lost Tarot. All right.
Yes, this is what I see, and we all see happening right in front of us. Absolutely. Not only everything falling apart, but a fall from grace.
And you know what's funny? And a lot of people, so some of you who are familiar with tarot, a lot of you are. And I've explained this in other shows. The most feared deck from people who aren't real familiar or card is the death card. Man, that's a delightful card to me. It's
I
not
love
things
the
to
death
change.
card.
It's this card, the 16. When I look at somebody and I say, your world's fixing to change.
Mm-hmm.
And what's funny is they're taking it back. What do you mean? Your world's always changing. you know, and our world's changing around us. Everything's
Yeah,
going.
yeah.
So that's what that card is. And then I look at the numerology of it with the 16, the one, starting with me. Okay. But what I find funny is the six, meaning victory. When you look at it, so we're looking at all this change on this tower card, but change is what brings you into victory.
Look at 2016
Okay.
and the chaos.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And you know
Mm-hmm.
what? 2016, I'm glad a lot of these young people go, that. My wife will tell you that is the year I disconnected from everything, Facebook. And I'm like, I'm just not going to be part of it because you
I'm
couldn't get,
done. Yes. Yes.
you remember, you couldn't find a happy spot. All right. So
Mm-hmm.
the reason I started this channel was to give people a place to come. We're not talking about that crap.
Yeah.
We got self-healing. We got healing we got to do.
Yes.
And so through that I've been able to help a lot of people. And I'm not saying that pat on the back, but because I just stood up and said, you know what, we got it. Somebody's got to have a place to go.
Yeah. Well, honey, people are afraid of change. And yet that is one thing that I welcome. Absolutely. And I am in no fear. And I just, oh, if you guys are feeling stressed, take a walk outside. Just take a look around.
And
The
leave the phone on the
children,
desk.
wildlife, the trees, the flowers, the sky, the clouds, the fresh air, the sunshine. Okay.
I, like I said, leave the phone inside. Just
Those are the
5
things that
minutes.
are really most important in everybody's heart.
And I tell people all the time, go outside and don't be afraid to open your arms up. Let the sun, we receive with the left, we give with the right. Let it move through you. Feel it.
The sun
Understand.
repairs our DNA. The moon repairs our soul.
Wow, you know what? I've never heard it put that way before. The sun repairs our DNA, and
Mhm,
we know that to be true,
mhm.
but the moon repairs our soul.
So it
Wow.
heals our emotion. Absolutely.
Miss Peggy, that's pretty heavy thought. Do you want people to be able to reach out to you? I know, folks, yes, we talked about she has Facebook called The Witch's Brew. It's a great place to go ask questions. I'm in there on her page, things like that. I'm not a part owner of it. It's Miss Peggy's thing or whatnot. But like I said, I reached out to her and said, I need to understand sigils because I knew these symbols meant
I
something
love
and
sigils.
things. And she took the time to sit down and show me a sigil board, things like that, how to do it, what to do. And man, let me tell you, the energy, the power that can be released.
I love the thirst for knowledge, dear. Absolutely.
So, folks, check her out on The Witch's Brew. Do you have any other ways somebody can reach out to you? Is it through Messenger or what? How do you want if somebody
just basically Facebook, to be honest, I'm kind of a solitary practitioner. I keep to myself and that. But if you're interested, you guys are more than welcome to join. We have got people all over the gamut, all ages, and that, and yes, nobody knows everything, but together we sure do know a hell of a lot. And
wow, you are just so full.
And I'd love it. If I don't know, guess what? We will enjoy the ride of discovery together and we'll both figure it out. Okay.
There you go. Folks, that's what we're about. That's what we're talking about here. Go find some answers. Find a safe place. I know there are so many questions. Nobody's going to give you all the answers, but one of the things we're hoping to do is shake you free so you can find the answers for yourself.
Absolutely.
Clear thing, and it's a safe place. I can ask questions there,
There is no stupid questions there. That's how we learn, is by asking.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Miss Peggy, with that being said, everybody, Peggy Sylvestor, The Witch's Brew, please check that page out. It is awesome. The people there are awesome. From any part of this you want to know, you will just be surprised and just take the learning and say, oh, okay, But one of the things I want you to know is what I always say, Miss Peggy, thank you. And everybody, my Bangarang tribe, take what you want, leave what you don't, but leave having experienced a little peace, love, and light. Banger. This is Tarot with an Attitude, featuring your host, tarot consultant, and spiritual medium, the Reverend Rob Lee.